Welcome back to the shop. We're going to see if we can't grind down these welds a little bit this morning and then finish it off. Yes, given that this is a crappy patch, I'm going to work with the Bondo. It's been sitting outside in the rain for 5 years or something, so we'll see if it works. And it certainly is a whole bunch better than it was previously. There's a hole here, but if I keep on welding it, I'm going to just blow more holes in it. So in general, it works a lot better than the previous catastrophic rust, and we're going to live with it like that. This is, after all, just a cheap old Postal Jeep. Let's see what's in this can that's been out in the rain for half a dozen years. I do have a fresh can, but this sort of fits the mood of this thing. I think I'll get a paint stick instead. Well, while I'm waiting for the Bondo to set up, or not, as the case may be, I thought I'd take a shot at my Harbor Freight cheap and nasty air file, which hasn't worked at all recently, and it's filthy dirty inside the barrel, and the shaft seems scored, which would explain why it doesn't work. I am not one of those guys that dismiss Harbor Freight tools. I've learned that they're exactly what you pay for, but this one was the worst of anything I've ever bought from them. So I think what I'm going to try and do is buff it up a bit, see if I can't clean up this scored sleeve, and see what happens. Maybe it'll work. Well, it's disassembled and reassembled, but I don't have high hopes for it. I don't think it's going to slide easily enough, and I couldn't ream it out well enough to make it happen, so. Yeah, it moved for a briefest of seconds, but that's the end of that. Well, for the moment, we'll call that a fail. I do know now how to disassemble it in any case, and I think if I were to give it a better try, I saw air coming out the front end, which means that the seal is non-existent. But for the moment, I think I'm going to abandon ship and worry about the Jeep. Well, I took it apart one other time and ran the brush down it again and tested it, and it seemed to work. So let's go see. This is the final assembly. I think we've got 90 pounds of pressure on the hose. I'm vaguely confident that I now have an air file. Leaking around the fitting though. Well, I get to put this back in the box, and we'll call that a win. It's fully assembled and functioning. It's not particularly powerful, but it might work for fine detail work. Well, it's about 4 or 5 hours since I put the body putty on, the Bondo, and I didn't put enough hardener in it, so it's still soft. But it is hardening up a bit, so I guess I'm just stuck with waiting for 3 days for setting in before I can sand it down and prime it and paint it. I have a strategy for painting it to try and accomplish this cracked look. We'll see. I couldn't manage to do it on some of the other things that I did, say up on the roof line, up there, or at the front of the Jeep. But I think there's a tendency for the new spray paints to bubble up if you apply paint after about an hour and before 3 days. And after they bubble up, I think if I sand it off, it'll somewhat resemble the cracked look, and that's what I'm hoping for. So this is going to be my experimental area to figure that out, and look for the next video to see if there was any success with that. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and if you consider subscribing to the channel, I would appreciate that too. Thanks.